Romney headquarters. Joining us on the phone now is the Secretary of State, Ruth Johnson. And the Secretary, this is an important day for Michigan. It's for all of us having an opportunity to exercise our right to vote. Clearly, it is something that none of us should take for granted, and I know it's a proud day for you.
It really is. It's one of the best privileges we can have in this country. So many places don't, and so many have given so much, so we have this opportunity. We had a good day out in Michigan, all over the state. The local clerks who actually conduct the elections and the election workers did a great job. We had 5,000 plus precincts open today, and we have 7.3 million voters registered to vote, although that number is inflated. Pew Report on the state said that Michigan had 102.54% of the eligible voters registered to vote in 2008, so we're working on cleaning up our qualified voter file. In 2000 and 2008, both of those presidential primaries, about 20% of the people voted.
And is that what you're anticipating tonight as well, around a 20% figure?
You know, it's really hard to tell because we consolidated elections in Michigan, which is a really good thing, so that people only have to come to the polls maximum 4 times a day. Everybody knows it's on February, May, August, and November. So we have a number of local areas that are also having things on the ballot, so whether that will increase the turnout or not, I don't know, but the anecdotal information that we're getting is that it may be a little bit less than that 20%.
A little bit less than 20%. Now, polls closed about a half hour ago. We're anticipating hard numbers. We've got 60 precincts that Tim Kiska, our pollster, has identified and getting hard numbers for to be able to kind of get a roadmap for this race and an outcome of this election tonight. But it was a closed primary. I mean, I've heard people say it's an open primary because you could vote. It was a closed primary, but you could choose, right, the party and the ballot that you wanted to vote on.
Exactly right. You don't have to be a card-carrying Democrat or Republican to vote in presidential primaries, but you do need to vote in one or the other. So when people went in or when they got their absentees, they had to request Democrat or Republican ballot to be able to vote in just one or the other. And because it's unusual, it only happens on rare occasion, actually. Some people were a little bit thrown by that. So it is something that people did need to do, but after they vote, they never have to be part of that party in any way or vote that way again. We also added on our on the application to vote a question that says, are you a U.S. citizen, yes or no? And early this morning we had somebody check no and tried to vote over in Kent County. We know that we have too many people on the voter rolls, and one of the past practices in Michigan until 2008 was that people were asked if they wanted to register to vote when they came to get a driver's license based on federal requirements at the time. And so a lot of people were asked if they wanted to register to vote even though they weren't U.S. citizens. So we're trying to get our qualified voter file cleaned up. That's our goal before the next election, so we can be sure no one's disenfranchised. Everyone's encouraged to vote, but we need to make sure that citizens get one vote.
Indeed. Ruth Johnson, thank you very much, Secretary of State, joining us as part of our continuing coverage on WXYZ.com. We appreciate your time this evening, and we look forward to speaking with you as we lead up to the November general election as well.
Okay, have a great evening.
Thank you. Ruth Johnson, the Secretary of State. Here with Bernie Porn, the president of EPIC MRA, analyzing this primary. The polls closed just over a half hour ago now. We'll wait for those hard numbers to come in to see
Tim
if
is crunching
Tim is crunching the numbers to see if the actual results reflect kind of the way the polling had gone leading up to. And just again, briefly, so we know prior to, and the last polling showed us what?
Showed us a 3-point lead for Santorum, 37 to 34%, and he was leading in the western part of the state, and then in the central part of the state, Romney was leading in southeast Michigan, and Santorum also in the northern part of the state. The absentee ballots were about a 20-point lead for Romney over Santorum. So the question will be, if in fact Santorum performs well tonight and his voters turn out, who I think are more passionate, The question is whether or not he could win among those voters going to the polls by enough of a margin to offset what I believe will be a significant margin for Romney among absentee voters.
No surprise that Rick Santorum would be holding what he hopes will be a victory celebration tonight on the west side of the state. Our Cheryl Choden is there. She's covering the Santorum campaign. Let's go to Cheryl now with the latest on what's taken place there. Cheryl?
Well, Dave, certainly the room here at the Amway Grand Hotel has filled up. You can see behind me all kinds of people have come now, and I think after the polls close, some of them are workers and some are just supporters, and they open the doors. There are a ton of people here waiting to hear from Rick Santorum, who is probably not going to come down for a while now. But we've got some interesting people to talk to. First, we're going to talk to Michelle, who is an out-and-out clear Santorum supporter, and then we'll talk to some other people as well. Michelle, tell me why you are so behind Rick Santorum.
He is a man of integrity, and when you have a man of integrity, if the wind is blowing to the left or the right, they're still going to stand. They'll flex with the opposition, they'll work with them, bring them on board, but at the end of the day, he still stands on his principles, so he's not going to fall.
And Santorum versus Romney, what makes you so embracing Santorum's views, not Governor Romney's?
I like Santorum's positions on the social issues. I like that he comes to the table with the economic issues with compromise. He doesn't totally throw the blue-collar worker under the bus, but he's not a complete Wall Street person either. I think he's going to be a good unifier for the country because we have both. We're very diverse.
Okay, Michelle, thanks, and we'll talk to you after when he comes down. I want to call in, though, thank you so much, another man. Ken, if you can step over. This is a Democrat who's here at Santorum's primary watch party who voted for Santorum today. Ken, it's Ken. I'm good, Ken. You are a retired auto worker, and you said you are a Democrat who voted for Santorum. Talk to me about that.
Well, you know, we were, the UAW is basically been out in full force trying to get everybody to support Santorum, to continue the controversy here between Romney and Rick Santorum, and I thought I'd step up and do my part.
So you voted for Santorum, but in November, will you vote for Barack Obama?
I'm going to have to vote for Barack Obama. You know, as a General Motors retiree, the administration stepped up to us when a lot of the other candidates would not have, and they've said that they wouldn't have.
You know, Santorum, they're people they called Democrats, I guess, to go and vote. Did you get a call, or you did this on your own? Or you?
We got several of those calls today.
You did,
yes,
huh?
so yeah, so that's why we're here, and we were invited in, so we came in for the party.
So are you holding up a sign that says I'm a Democrat?
No, there's only a few people that know about that.
And I'm one of them.
You're one of them, right? Okay. So, but we're looking forward to a long campaign, and I think Obama's going to do great things in his second term, and I really have a lot of faith in him.
Now, if you had to vote for Santorum or Mitt Romney, who would you vote for?
It would be a toss-up. It really would be a toss-up right now.
You were telling me before you felt they both felt the same on the bailout.
I believe that they were both against all the, well, Romney was for the financial industry bailout, but against bailing out corporations. And I believe Mr. Santorum's view is totally against bailouts whatsoever.
Interesting. So you have to go and you had to declare yourself at the primary, then you have to go back to the Democratic, correct?
Yeah, exactly. So that's what I intend to do.
Okay. Well, it's Ken Carey, right?
Right. Yeah.
All right.
Nice talking to you.
Nice talking. You're from Grand Rapids,
Grand
right?
Rapids, right.
Okay. And where did you retire from?
Right here in Grand Rapids. They closed our plant about 1.5 years ago, and it's been completely razed to the ground right now. So it's quite devastating to the local economy, but we're going to get through it.
Okay, Ken, thanks for sharing your thoughts with me. How interesting is that? Like a Democrat who did get the call, and he went and he did vote today for Rick Santorum. So again, room filling up. You can see now it is a watch party. They're calling it a primary watch party. No word on when Santorum will come down and speak. I'm sure they're going to wait for harder numbers. He is upstairs with some members of his family. He has 7 children from ages 3 to 20. They're not all here, but a handful of them are, and his wife Karen, and I'm sure they'll be down later, and when they are down, I'm sure that we will all get to see it. So back to you, Dave and Chuck.
Yeah, Cheryl, thank you very much. And that's exactly, you talking and finding Ken, that's exactly what the Democrats were hoping would take place to some degree in this primary election today. Democrats crossing over and voting for Rick Santorum. So mission accomplished, I guess, at least for Ken.
That's right. It's hard to believe that he walked right up to us and said, hey, I'm a Democrat and I voted for Rick Santorum. And so we started to engage in conversation to find out why he did it, and then he had received those phone calls. So I thought it was interesting and wanted to bring it to you because I thought then you would see it firsthand that you're right, it's achieving exactly what they wanted to do. So, but I would guess that he's in the minority here. Most of the people are clear-cut Santorum supporters, but he came, and he's here, and he's waiting to hear what Santorum has to say.
Well, that's great. I'm glad he found you, and you two got hooked up. We're here with Bernie Porn as well. Cheryl, thank you very much. We'll look forward to hearing from you a bit later as well. So impossible to measure, really, what kind of impact these robocalls, this call for Democrats to vote for Santorum might ultimately have, but
There were an awful lot of calls made, and a couple of times. There was one Democratic consultant in Southeast Michigan that had probably at least 80,000 robocalls made to known Democrats, urging them to participate in the election. And what's interesting is that there were also these two Republicans who encouraged Democrats to participate in the election, and on the Senate floor they urged that to happen. And of course, Chairman Mark Brewer sent out the film of this happening and urged people to, or just didn't say to vote Democratic, but said if in fact problems occur for the Republican Party, they brought it on themselves by encouraging Democrats to participate.
well, it's politics.
It's politics, and both sides have been guilty of playing these kinds of games. And I know that in 2000, about a month out from the election, we projected that there were going to be a significant number of Democrats participating and voting for McCain. And sure enough, they did, and he won. Prior to that, Governor English said, oh no, there won't be that many Democrats participating. The day after the election, he said, we got to figure out a way to stop those Democrats from going to the polls in our party.
And while Romney called it a dirty trick and called it a low moment in the campaign, it's not like this stuff hasn't happened before, and it will happen again in the future. You kind of sign up for it, if you're going to engage in the game, right? And
Santorum complained about the Romney folks using the tape from 2008 when he was endorsing Romney in another election. I have gotten more, I don't know what list I'm on, but I have gotten more robocalls from Mitt Romney alone and his campaign and his super PAC than I got from all of the candidates running in all of the last 3 cycles of elections.
Is that right?
That's right. It was incredible. I've never gotten this many.
Well, he has an organization, and he has money, and he has outspent Rick Santorum in this state.
About 2 to 1, 2 to 1. And that is not as much as he outspent Gingrich in Florida, which was about 19 to 1. So if it is 2 to 1, why then it will be interesting to see some of these some like Ottawa County, where did they really turn out at 30% instead of the 20 statewide?
Well, and when we look at that number, and if it was 19 to 1 in Florida, at that point, Romney's campaign really was kind of on the ledge, right? I mean, he had to have a good showing in Florida.
After losing South Carolina?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And after South Carolina, in our polling, we showed Gingrich coming within 5 points of Romney. That shows, just from the news of South Carolina, how relatively weak Romney was in terms of the anybody but Mitt grouping. And now you seem to see some coalescing around Santorum because we've had the flavor of the month over all of these candidates.
But how quickly things can change
in politics. They can change very quickly. This has been probably one of the most interesting elections in terms of the ups and downs. Michelle Bachmann, Rick Perry, and of course Rick Perry did a lot of his problems to himself. The Perry minute
on the debate, which was so painful, and something that he'll have to live with forever, I guess.
And then Herman Cain and Newt Gingrich coming up, doing well in the debates, and then dropping off in Florida, and now disappearing in a lot of the states. because he doesn't have the money, but now Santorum coming.
And no Gingrich in Michigan. I mean, he pretty much wrote off this state. It seems as though, and he's still out there, Georgia, some of the other Super Tuesday states, that's where maybe he tries to make a last stand, if there is a last stand for Newt Gingrich.
Well, and in a lot of those states where Gingrich was leading, Romney is now leading. However, if Romney were to lose or even come close in Michigan, that's where the impact of Michigan could have an impact on some of those other states in Super Tuesday.
Right, because that week leading up to, I mean, that'll be the talk, right? He'll have to repeatedly defend either losing Michigan or the margin, the slim margin, if it turns out to be. He'll have to defend his slim margin. I won, but I'm still defensive.
Yeah, and the establishment Republicans will be, challenging him and obviously be indicating their potential fear of how he will resonate with voters in the general election.
Yeah. We're going to be joined on the phone now, Kelly Rossman McKinney, political consultant based in Lansing as well, an awful lot of experience. Kelly, we welcome you to our continuing coverage here on primary night in the state of Michigan. Bernie Porn is with us from Epic MRA. We've been talking about the election, talking about the candidates. First of all, kind of a broad overview from you on kind of where you see the political wins.
Well, gee, this is going to be a much more exciting night for everyone than I think we initially expected. Certainly the neck-and-neck race between Rick Santorum and Mitt Romney is pretty exciting, and I love Bernie's take on whether or not the Democrats have gone in and noodled around in the Republican primary or not, because the Santorum numbers are awfully strong.
No question about it.
So they did, huh?
To some extent, we'll be able to analyze that when we see some of the precinct data tonight, I think, by comparing it with Democratic areas that were strong in the general election. We can see, comparatively speaking, how they turned out today.
So it's interesting. I did what I would consider to be a qualitative survey, Bernie. So we know it was totally anecdotal based on my friends. I had dinner with 4 very politically active women. Most of them are Democrats. And of the 3 of us who are Democrats, I pulled a Democratic ballot and voted today. Another Democratic friend pulled a Republican ballot and voted for Santorum. And the 3rd woman didn't vote because why bother? So you got, of the 3 of us, we each had done something different as Democrats.
Well, and probably that's going to be the case across the board.
Absolutely.
For any Democrats who would take part in this election, and certainly it was their right to do so. Kelly, how about the thought of if Romney wins, but it's by a small margin, the damage that he suffers going forward in his home state?
Well, it's interesting. I think that's a great question on a couple of fronts. First of all, as someone who's lived in Michigan since 1970, I don't view Mitt Romney as being much of a native Michigander. I get that he was born here and lived here up until he was about 19, 20 years old, but I don't think he even has property here, although he certainly still has family here. So it's interesting to hear him constantly referred to as native son and Michigan as home state. The layer that I think is more interesting and more appropriate to think about is that the vast majority of Romney's team, even at the national level, is from Michigan. Katie Packer Gage, her husband Alex Gage, her sister Lori Wertz, Fred Zolik, Michael Murphy. These are all folks who cut their teeth on politics right here in Michigan. So their organization in Michigan should be beyond the pale in terms of their expertise. And everything I've heard about Rick Santorum's campaign is that organization is an oxymoron when you talk about the campaign. They're not pulling people's email information when they've got folks at rallies. I mean, they're not gathering basic data that you would really want. Now, maybe they're assuming that, well, geez, if we win, we're going to get everything we need from the Republican Party eventually anyway, so what do we care?
Right. Well,
and it's interesting.
Yeah, and it will be. Clearly, having been through this before, and with the organization and the money, I mean, there should be a lot of advantages, not to mention the fact that the name recognition and born in the state, there should be advantages for Romney over Santorum here, no question.
Well, there should be, but there are a couple things to think about that are hard to survey in terms of people's attitudes. One is your general personal comfort level with a candidate, and I think Mitt Romney just has he's got a distance to him that is hard to wrap your arms around, whereas Santorum just comes across as a much more personable guy. Now, as someone who is a Democrat, I find Romney a more palatable candidate because he's far more moderate than Rick Santorum, but I also find Rick Santorum more comfortable to look at and to listen to because he just comes across as more personable.
Maybe more real.
Yeah. You know, again, philosophically, he's so far right compared to where I'm comfortable with.
Right.
But his demeanor just is a lot more comfortable and, to a certain extent, comforting.
Yeah, interesting.
That's a really good observation.
And,
Why, thank you.
Yeah, and Kelly and Bernie both. I think that's maybe that connecting or difficulty in connecting. I think that's why we're seeing more of Ann Romney at events. Yes. That she's much more active this time around than she was 4 years ago, as he was trying to earn the nomination. Maybe soften him, make him seem more palatable to people.
Well, he is making an effort to do so, but still, in our data, we showed that there is this lingering concern about his wealth and his inability to really engage with people, and that, I think, is something that he's having a difficult time grappling with.
Well, yeah, just things as basic as Ann and her Cadillacs.
Yeah.
You know, most of us aren't driving a couple of Cadillacs. He just seems so distant from the real world and reinforces that too frequently for it to be an accident.
Right.
I mean,
well, and what he meant, right, was American cars. But,
well, yeah,
but when
even
you say,
that, though.
but you say Cadillacs, and then it gives it a whole
different meaning.
Different meaning.
Well, yeah, but you know, yeah, you're absolutely right. I got to tell you a quick story. I've been following Twitter, and there's a great tweet somebody posted that says there's no truth to the rumor that Mitt Romney did his own robocalls, referring to the fact that he himself is robotic. And I thought, you know, that's great. I wish I'd thought of that.
Well, Kelly, thank you very much. It's going to be a very interesting night. Certainly, and as we go into the fall, whether it's Romney or Santorum as the nominee for the Republicans, I'm guessing you feel that either man is going to have a very difficult time against the incumbent president.
Oh, absolutely. I think that what we're seeing tonight is just a great gift to Barack Obama and his presidency. So it'll be fun. It'll be a lot of fun. I'm glad I'm not working on either campaign because it's going to be a late night tonight for those folks.
Kelly, thank you very much. Kelly Rossman McKinney,
you bet,
political
thanks.
consultant, joining us tonight from Lansing. Some interesting thoughts and insights.
Kelly always has interesting takes on the candidates in terms of their personal qualities. That's something that she's really good at in terms of her observations.
Well, and clearly, and I've been at a couple of Mitt Romney events, and you know, he doesn't. he didn't wow everybody in the room. I got to say that when he spoke. There was applause, but it wasn't raucous. So whether that's people still trying to get comfortable with him as a candidate, whether he just has difficulty generating that, I don't know.
The intensity on the very favorable intensity in terms of personal rankings of Romney is about 9 or 10 points lower than Santorum.
But don't you have to have that, whether it's Santorum or Romney as the nominee, looking forward to November? Somebody's got to have that if you're going up against Barack Obama, don't you? I mean, he's proven that he can get people excited and rallied behind him.
And his whole campaign organization is I think, very adept as well. And Romney, assuming for a moment that he is the nominee, I think he will continue to have some of these difficulties in relating to people. And he is even admitting now, in the last couple of days, that, yeah, that's a problem. Well, yeah, it is.
Yeah. Let's not put our foot in our mouth going forward anymore, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Bernie Porn is joining us, principal and president of EPIC MRA. There's a lot of the polling for us at Channel 7, and we're thrilled with the relationship there. I think this is it's fascinating. It's just a fascinating day today and a fascinating study of where we are.
This is the fun part, just watching the results and how the campaign has evolved between these two candidates as they have come into Michigan. And just think, a few short weeks ago, there was people were asking, will Michigan be relevant at all? And the whole nation right now is looking at Michigan in terms of this race between these two men.
Well, it's interesting. We had L. Brooks Patterson on earlier tonight. He's in the Romney camp. Bill Schuette, the Attorney General, who was with Tom Waite in Novi a little bit earlier, is for Romney. The governor of the state of Michigan, Rick Snyder, is a backer of Mitt Romney. And does any of that make a difference?
Well, we did ask a question in our survey in terms of the influence of Governor Snyder's endorsement. 82% said it really didn't matter, and a slightly higher percentage said that made them less likely to support Romney than more likely to support him. It was only like a 2 or 3 point difference.
So really, it comes down to the two men and their personalities and their policies and beliefs,
and more importantly, how they connect with people. Yeah. And that, I think, is where, if in fact Santorum wins tonight, it will be because of his superior ability at connecting with voters and also connecting with them on the issues that they care about, which in this case are the social issues, which is, given the economy that we're having right now, it is kind of surprising the extent to which they're looking at the social issues. And part of it is because people are feeling more comfortable and believe that the economy is improving.
Right. And as we say, though, in politics, a lot of things can change and can change quickly.
And especially in this economy.
Yeah. Either of these two men more adept at that change and the change as it's occurring, just in terms of your observation? Who might better take advantage of opportunities that come along in the political landscape?
Probably Romney is better equipped to do that with his organization and his consultants in terms of adapting to changes in the economy and taking advantage of things that are bad. And if in fact that, if the housing market becomes a problem, if Europe becomes a problem, that could be something that I think he would probably be better equipped to adjust to than Santorum.
We've talked a lot about Romney. We've talked a lot about Santorum. Ron Paul is on the ballot. He has campaigned in the state of Michigan. In Mount Pleasant, they had 1,200 people, and hundreds more had to be turned away to hear Ron Paul. He is speaking tonight in the state of Michigan. He's speaking now.
Everybody has
Let's dip in and listen to a little bit of Ron Paul.
Understand what this is all about and why liberty is the answer to the mess that we're in today. Thank you very much for coming.
Ron Paul, and just catching the very tail end He spent some time in Michigan, and a lot of these candidates are going to be moving quickly from the state because the calendar is the calendar. And I know Mitt Romney is going to be in Ohio tomorrow. Rick Santorum was in Ohio.
Once the votes are cast, well, they're out of here.
Yeah. But there is support for Ron Paul and his message as well. Probably not enough to win in Michigan, but what about the impact of the Ron Paul vote?
That vote is probably going to come in the 10 to 12, maybe 13% range, unless there's all of a sudden a huge turnout among college types of students. He runs very well among younger voters, under age 30. And a part of that, I think, is his position on bringing troops back.
And no wars going forward.
No wars going forward, because we've had a long period of time here where we've been in Iraq and in Afghanistan, and the public, the American people, are not as supportive, certainly, as they have been in the past, and downright opposed to it. And so I think that's a part of the connection, but it is kind of mystifying to me how, given some of his other positions on issues, that young people are crowding to him as they are. But he has an appeal, clearly.
And is a factor to some degree, certainly in this state. How long does a Ron Paul stay in the race? What about Newt Gingrich? If he doesn't have success in his home state, he's got to be out, right?
Oh, absolutely. And if Gingrich gets out, most of those voters are going to go to Santorum. And depending on when that is in the calendar, that could have an impact. Ron Paul is probably going to stay in, and there's been discussions about maybe him running as an independent. We tested that, and if he were to run as an independent, national polls as well as ours would show that he would take more away from the Republican than away from President Obama, and that would benefit Obama. Much the same way that Bill Clinton won with Ross Perot in the race.
Right. Would there be pressure from the Republican Party to have Ron Paul step aside, certainly to try to not gum up the works further?
He doesn't seem like
yeah, he's going to listen, is he? Yeah.
he doesn't seem like the kind of guy who gets pushed around.
Yeah. And if I'm going to run as a third-party candidate, I'm going to run as a third-party candidate.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't look like he's that bendable.
Yeah. Well, it's a fascinating night. How late a night do you think? I mean, what are we talking about here? And depending on the closeness of this vote, and as far as being able to project a winner, as far as hard numbers, I mean.
Well, if the last few polls are any indication, you've had a couple of polls that have been 1 point up for Romney, another one or two 1 point up for Santorum, and if that continues, well, it would be very difficult to project things. I mean, it may not be an early night.
Yeah. And going forward, we've talked a little bit about the importance of Michigan, certainly here, more so than some thought in the primary calendar. And look into the general election. Michigan is still, because of who we are and what we're about with manufacturing and the autos, we're going to be
a battleground state, and Michigan will be able to determine maybe who wins the presidency.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting night we're in the middle of here. This is our extended political coverage of the Michigan presidential primary on WXYZ.com. Bernie Porn is with us. Tim Kiska is here as well. We've got 60 precincts across the state of Michigan, a sample looking at hard numbers after the polls closed to kind of give us an idea of the tightness, the closeness of this race, and ultimately who's going to prevail in Michigan, whether it's Mitt Romney or Rick Santorum. And again, we've got reporters who are out in the field. Tom Waite is with the Romney campaign in Novi. Cheryl Choden is in Grand Rapids with the Santorum campaign. We expect that both candidates are going to address their supporters at these locations at some point during the evening tonight, but we may be here a while.
It may be tomorrow.
That would be unprecedented, would it not be, in a primary in the state of Michigan?
Well, you've seen a lot of close races in some of these primaries and caucus states.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, looking back to 2008, Romney won by over 80,000 votes over
About
John McCain.
Nine and a little over 9 percentage points.
Yeah, which was a good margin for him, and ultimately McCain wound up being the nominee. But I don't think you can underestimate the importance of this night and this state. And I'm guessing weeks out, Mitt Romney never expected that he would have to extend the resources and the amount of time in Michigan.
To save Michigan.
To save Michigan.
And I would be surprised if between the super PAC and his campaign, if they haven't spent, in the area of maybe $6 million or more. I could be wrong, but it's been an awful lot of advertising.
Well, and in fact, we had a few people that came into the station as visitors today comment about how sick and tired they are of seeing, the ads and the messages. But that's politics too.
That's politics, just maximum saturation, which means that people who are seeing those ads more than all of the fast food establishments and commercial all combined.
Well, and Ken, who Cheryl Choden talked with in Grand Rapids, the Democrat who came and crossed over and voted for Santorum today, pretty well versed on the candidates, what they believed in relative to the bailouts and the things that were important to him. The messages have gotten to him, and he knows
what his actions are doing and the actions of others.
Yeah.
No question about it.
Yeah.
And for Republicans, they need to remember back when you think of George Wallace winning Michigan, there are an awful lot of Republicans who crossed over to vote for George Wallace to embarrass the Democrats, and they were successful in that effort.
Yeah. Chuck Stokes, 7 editorial director, has a very, very important role this evening, as always. It's about hard numbers, and it's about 5 minutes after 9. Polls have been closed for just over an hour. Chuck is with Tim Kiska, our Channel 7 pollster, and Chuck, take it away. Are we getting some kind of indication?
We aren't ready to call it yet, but we've got a nail biter here in Michigan. About 41% with Santorum, about 40% for Romney, 42 to 40. I'm now told by Tim Kiska down here with Santorum in the lead. About 10% with Newt Gingrich. 10% with Ron Paul, and about 5% with Newt Gingrich. This race is just too close to call. It is a nail biter, it is a humdinger. I'm sure that Mitt Romney never quite expected to be in this kind of a race here in Michigan with Santorum, but it shows that the people are voting, and they're voting with their hearts. They're voting on social issues, they're voting on fiscal issues. They may be trying to send a message in terms of crossover with Democrats, maybe playing a little role here. It's hard to tell just how big of a role, but anything this close, Paul could be a factor. Democrats crossing over can be a factor. There are a lot of things at work here. We thought we'd be able to call it before 9 o'clock. We can't. We'd rather play it safe than get it wrong. And when Tim Kiska's ready to call it, we will call it. I understand the networks are doing the same thing. I've talked to our media polling partners across the state at WILX and WJRT, Wood over in Grand Rapids, and the Free Press. And everybody's saying the same thing, too close to call.
The 10%, and Bernie, we talked about that, the Ron Paul factor here. I mean, 10%, that's a significant number for someone who is considered, by many, a marginal candidate compared to Romney and Santorum, but that's playing a role here.
Oh, it is. And what's going to be interesting is, depending on how this turns out, is the spin that each candidate puts on this. And everybody's going to try to come out and claim some type of victory, as I'm sure Bernie will be able to tell you. And the voters are going to have to sort through between what they believe and what they don't believe. But this may give a very good indication of what we're going to see in just about 6 months down the line between whoever the Republican nominee is going to be and President Barack Obama. Michigan may have to go through this one more time. There were a lot of people who a few months ago said, oh, this is not going to be really tight here in the state of Michigan. When Bobby Shostak walked in the building, he said, I've been telling everybody that this was going to be tight, and he's absolutely right.
And for the benefit of our viewers as we continue our coverage here on primary election night, Chuck, Tim is working with a team. These are students that he's paying from University of Michigan Dearborn, journalism
Correct.
students that are gathering these hard numbers. But take us through again how Tim Kiska is trying to determine a winner in this race.
He's trying to do it very carefully
Yes,
tonight.
as always.
He's earning his money tonight, that's for sure.
But we've got 60 precincts that are a sample.
Yeah. Can you hear Tim a little bit here? Yeah. Go ahead, Tim. Oh, okay. All right, I'll tell you. Basically, he has 60 precincts across the state that are representative of the entire state of Michigan. And these are precincts that have some history to them. He knows how they voted 4 years ago, so he can do some comparison there. And when he gets the real numbers, and these are real numbers coming in from these precincts, then he pumps them into his formula, his sample, and it puts the percentages down, and he can tell where everything is going. And there's certain margin of error in all polling.
Sure.
And what he's saying right now is the margin of error is so close there that we can't even call it with any degree of certainty and feel as though we're doing justice to the voters out there.
So where we're at so far in terms of hard numbers, if I heard correctly, Santorum 42%, Romney 40%, Ron Paul 10%, and Newt Gingrich 5%, kind of as we stand now, roughly.
Give or take some percentages, right? Okay. Yeah, but very close in that range. So this is Humdinger, and he's got about, what do you have, about 53 precincts in now? Roughly 50 of the 60 precincts in at this time.
All right. So, and then this whole question of the absentee ballots, which could factor as much as 20% of the total vote. Maybe that's ultimately a deciding factor in the outcome if it's going to remain this close?
Well, it may be, and I remember talking to Bernie about that in the last poll that we did, and he said the absentee votes could be the real deciding factor here. So we've got absentee ballots at work here, we've got Ron Paul at work here, and in something this close, you probably got Democratic crossover playing a role here too.
Fascinating.
Fascinating.
At 10 minutes after 9 on
this president believes in crony capitalism. If he's president of the
primary night, and Bernie, your take on what we're seeing so far?
Well, thinking back on the poll that we did, we had about 10% undecided, and it sounds like they both pretty much took equal percentages of the undecided vote. We had 3% advantage for Santorum, and it's ended up right now about 2%. And all of the other polls as well showed a margin that was very, very close, and some had larger percentages that were undecided. But the big thing is going to be how the absentee voters play in this, and there are absentee voting precincts in the sample that Tim is playing with, but the real trick is trying to make sure that you proportionalize those and have it contribute the right amount to the total vote. And that's what he's trying to play with.
Right, exactly, and why it's so difficult when it's so close, and why you've got to get it right. Let's talk again, though. Should Santorum wind up winning this, even by the slimmest of margins, again, both candidates will be able to claim that they've won something here because each will have delegates from the state of Michigan.
Also, it is possible, given the closeness of this race, that Santorum could win the popular vote, but have fewer numbers of delegates than Romney has, simply because of the way it works at the congressional districting level. And it is, I think, entirely possible that could happen, where Santorum will win the total number of votes by a couple points, but still get fewer delegates than Romney gets.
Yeah. All right, but if that were to happen, Romney's still got some explaining to do.
He's got a lot of explaining to do because losing his home state, home court advantage, that is really a big problem for him moving forward and trying to deal with these other states, and especially Super Tuesday.
Right, Super Tuesday indeed. And then the whole question of electability when it comes down to, that's, I think, Romney supporters, hey, he's best positioned, he's the best chance we've got to beat Barack Obama in the general election. But he's going to have to, again, explain why that's the case in light of results of a night like tonight.
And also, if he is losing Michigan, he's going to be even more damaged among the independent voters who, if whoever the nominee is of both parties, if President Obama or the Republican nominee cannot capture enough independents, they can't win.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. Wow, it's going to be fascinating. So, again, the early indication here from the numbers, and what are we talking about, 50 maybe of these 60 precincts that are part of the sample that Tim Kiska is polling for us. 42% Santorum, 40% Romney, 10% Ron Paul, 5% Gingrich. Any surprise to you in the Paul number or the Gingrich number in light of polling leading up to
No,
tonight?
I've been saying all along that I thought that the more passionate voters were those that were supporting Santorum. I thought that Romney should win based on his tremendous advantage and resources, and the fact that he was winning among AV voters, and he may still win, depending on how many total votes there are. If it's 24 or 25% of the total vote, and maybe that is possible given the lower turnout, then he could be advantaged enough to overcome a Santorum lead among those folks who went to the polls today. Interesting.
Very interesting. The team is still across the way, getting more calls, more numbers. And again, as Chuck explained what's going on here, they get these hard numbers and then put them into the system, and there's a formula in order to determine percentages based on that sample.
And what Tim is doing right now, I'm sure, is looking at the turnout in western Michigan and Ottawa County versus the turnout in some of the areas where Romney is running well, to see whether or not there's any balancing that needs to be done with those, and then also trying to take into consideration the likely contribution of those AV ballots. And playing with those three pieces of the pie is a challenge.
Yeah. Well, and again, you want to get it first when we're doing daily news coverage at 7 Action News. Right. You want to get it first, but more important, you want to get it right. And particularly in this business, you want to get it right. I mean, this is important stuff.
Yeah, you don't want to be wrong, and it's better to be last and right than first and wrong.
Yep. And it's going to be razor thin by all appearances of the numbers, the hard numbers that we've gotten so far, a razor thin margin, no matter who it is that winds up the winner.
And it's entirely possible that everyone, including the networks and Tim, are looking at these numbers, and will have to wait until they see more hard numbers from some of the areas before they can really come up with even more projections based on some of the hard numbers that are coming in.
Yeah. In the meantime, we've got supporters for the two main candidates here, Rick Santorum and Mitt Romney, waiting to hear from their man, hoping that their man is going to be victorious tonight. Our man, Tom Waite, is there with the Romney campaign. He's awaiting an appearance by the former Massachusetts governor as well. Tom, take it away.
Yeah, the atmosphere here, Dave, is pretty upbeat, I should say. There was a lot of cheering and applause just a few minutes ago when projections were announced that Romney would win Arizona's primary, and he's doing pretty well here in Michigan, at least in the earlier stages as we've been seeing those results come in. He is leading right now. I don't know if we can go off and kind of show the crowd here, but there's a lot of people that have filled in the room here at the Suburban Collection Showplace room that we're in here. This is his headquarters, as we've been talking about tonight. A lot of excitement building as we wait for Romney to take that podium over there. The results, of course, not official by any means yet, but I think people here are feeling pretty good about what they've seen so far. They feel like they have the momentum going in their direction. A lot of power players here in the room. We've got the governor who arrived a short time ago. Also the attorney general, as if you've been watching our webcast, we talked to him for a little while. They are all siding with Romney over Santorum. They believe he's the guy with the message and the one that can beat President Obama in the general election. We got the Supremes playing. We've got all kinds of upbeat kind of music going here as we await more and more results coming in. the crowd kind of was a little subdued at first. You know, I think people were kind of nervous, and then, as I mentioned, you heard the Arizona results announced, and so that's when people kind of really, you could feel people, maybe a little breath of sigh of relief there, a little deep breath, just a nice piece of good news, I think, for the people who have been standing here for hours. They were definitely waiting for that. We've got a big cheering here. Oh, that's because they're showing the crowd on one of the cable channels here across the country so that they can see themselves on TV. The crowd very, I would say, you know, like I said, optimistic. There we go. We see more results coming in, 41-38 in favor of Mitt Romney, with 30% of the precincts reporting. That's what we're seeing right now, and that's why you're hearing that applause. You know, the governor and the attorney general have both kind of echoed the same selling points for Mitt Romney, which is that he is the guy who can appeal to a wider audience, that can really reach more people across the country and perhaps bring in more votes than President Obama can. And the crowd now intensely watching the monitors here to see what's going on with the results and kind of the breakdown of how that's all playing out. Of course, we're waiting for all those results to come in. It's kind of exciting, and I think everyone here is definitely on the edge of their seats as they wait for these numbers to come in. I don't think there's any doubt, you know, they want to see a strong victory here, but they'll take any kind of victory at this point. All right, well, there you go. More erupting, more cheering. I think they're liking the numbers as they come in, but nothing is official yet. Certainly no one is declaring a winner. Reporting live here in Novi, back to you.
All right, Tom, thank you very much. Bernie Porn is with us from Epic MRA, and 7 Action News anchor Stephen Clark is here as well. You're following social media tonight in particular, and I would think there's an awful lot of chatter. If
well, I've got to tell you, the tweets are as close as the vote is right now, because, you know, it's just like every time a number comes out, you know, people say, look at that right there, you know, Romney's going to win. And then, like, the next tweet is, oh, look at that right there, Santorum's going to win. It is so close. I've been looking over Kiska's shoulder here for the last hour and a half, adding these numbers up, and it's like one county will come in up here, you know, for Santorum, and the next county comes in up here for Romney. But it's just like keep trading punches. I mean, it really looks, if you watch the results come in like that, it looks like a boxing match. This guy hits, this guy hits, this guy hits, this guy hits. And that's how it's been this whole time. Right now, it's such a slim lead in the raw numbers that it's just too close for them to call, and social media is going nuts because they don't know what to call it either.
Yeah. But I would imagine everybody's got their favorites on social media as well, and they want to get their message out, and they want to support their guy and their particular political position.
Yeah, it's, so here it is. Romney looks good with 10,000 votes. Well, okay, that changed. Based on exit polls, I'd be willing to say Romney wins by a small margin. You know, there's a lot of spinning going on right here also. I think, you know, I don't know who all these people are. Some of them are party faithful. Some are just voters out there who've got their fix on everything like that. But it certainly has polarized the social media world. I can't even imagine what it's doing to the Republican Party, because the people in the social media, Bernie, they're just at each other. And I've never seen such discord in what's supposed to be a social media.
I think they're probably all going to need some anger management after this day.
Well, and then look ahead to the general election as well. You know, you're going to have distinct choices, right? And you've got that whole party issue again, and it's likely to be, shall we say, volatile?
Oh, yeah. Well, I find it interesting is there's a lot of confusion over how this works, because people keep saying, oh, look like Romney's going to win Michigan and get the delegates. Well, you know, even if Romney were to switch things over in Santorum and win by the popular vote, it's winner takes two. And he gets 2 delegates for winning the state. And then they start dividing them up. And I think I heard you say it's absolutely possible that whoever wins the popular vote will not win the most delegates.
That's right.
Because of the way the counties are allocated and the way the districts fit with them.
By congressional district, yeah. That's how it's allocated.
And it's looking like that is such a possibility because every single county has been so close. I've only seen 1 or 2 counties that you could call a blowout. Everything else has always been Romney by a few or Santorum by a few. And right now, it's just edged up to where Santorum is like that high above Romney in the total count that we've got on the samples.
It's looking like it's one of those historic close races. You know, maybe it won't end up that way, but right now it looks like it's one of those historic close races, like the former governor who was in here, Jim Blanchard, the very close election that he had with John Engler. You know.
Very interesting. Stephen, thank you.
Nope, no problem at all. I keep watching what they're saying here.
And we'll
see who won the last tweet.
Yeah, exactly. The battle of the tweets.
That's what it is.
On primary election night. Bernie Porn as well. Let's go back.